if you like, forerunning resurrected person who goes to heaven and never dies, something like Jesus, if you like. So even that is, you know, played on the imagination of the ancients. So they wanted books. What did he see up in heaven? And, you know, what an important person. He obviously was taken straight to heaven and didn't die. All the other ones died. The books don't say this about him, but that's the implication. So he was a very impressive figure to write books about. We'll find Daniel is the same thing. When we look at the book of Daniel, it's going to go from Nebuchadnezzar all the way down to Darius's time, the Medes and the Persians, maybe even Xerxes. I'm not even sure if we look at the writing. In other words, Daniel is spanning about a 250-year period. He didn't live 250 years. In fact, who mentions Daniel in the Bible? Jeremiah. He's mentioned the prophet Jeremiah as one of the wise men of old. So that person was living before Jeremiah, at the most in Jeremiah's time. And Jeremiah's time is somewhere in the 600s. So Daniel was a person who lived even before or during the 600s, at the most. He wasn't living in Persia in the 450s at the time of the Battle of Marathon or, you know, the 300. I don't know how many have seen the 300. I taped it the other night on TV because all of my offspring are so enamored of the silly cartoon version of the 300. But anyway, it's better than nothing. At least it shows the manliness, which used to be count for something. Kind of a stereotyped manliness, you know, muscle-bound manliness, sort of Arnold Schwarzenegger before he stopped taking his steroids. Huh?
No accent.
No, had a little accent, had a Scottish brogue, actually. He's the actor was a Scot, so anyway. Did you guys see the 300?
Yeah.
How many saw the 300? Oh, yeah, you see? That's history now. That's the poetry. You know, that's what you'll remember. Now you just proved what I was trying to say. So that's why when I'm talking about the Gospels, going back to the Gospels, you say, well, come on, Professor Eisenman. You know, a lot of people believe all of this. That's not my fault. That's not my problem. That's their problem. You know, again, Paul said, if you want to believe things completely, if you're under authority, if you're a Muslim or a Jewish person or a Christian person, you know, lots of people are under authority. It's not just one. Jews are under authority too. They can believe the silliest things you can imagine. I can tell you that. And you know, I don't want to insult anyone because people are more sensitive. Christians are more sensitive than Jews about these things. And Muslims are so sensitive. I say that they'll kill you. They just put a death warrant out there for this guy that did the cartoon in Denmark. They've put a reward out, 500,000 kopecks or something, for the person who, you know, slits his throat. They killed that guy in Holland because he was, you know, made a movie that was trying to stop female circumcision in East Africa or something like that, you know, and they pinned a sign on him with a knife, and, you know, telling his crimes against, you know, the Ummah or the community. This is serious stuff, so you want to be careful, but, you know, when people are under authority, they don't have a choice whether to believe or not. Thomas Jefferson didn't believe in the New Testament completely. He wrote his own version of the New Testament. Now, he's not a genius or a god, but he's a thinking person. So look, I think I told you, if I didn't, you know, the letters of Paul are pretty authentic. That is, the major ones. You know, you can see that they're pretty autobiographical, and someone or someone, you know, was called Paul or something like that, wrote those letters, and they were preserved. And that's Romans, Galatians, 1 and 2 Corinthians, some of Thessalonians, and Philippians. The others scholars have some doubt about, but that's plenty, man. We don't need any more than those letters to know what he thought. So, or where he was coming from, or what he was preoccupying him, or what his mindset was. Why am I mentioning him? Because we're going to have to bring Paul up in the second part of this class, because there's material in the scrolls that seem to relate to someone of that kind, as I mentioned last time. So it's going to be important. But the Gospels are written, almost everyone agrees, and I'm sure it's true, after Paul. They're written after Paul's letters because Paul doesn't refer to the Gospels. He doesn't know anything about the Gospels. He knows one thing, the Last Supper, and something of what Jesus said in the Last Supper that is then incorporated into the Gospels. That's the only thing that he said that he was taught. Where does he speak about that, about what Jesus said or did at the Last Supper? That was pretty, but he said he was taught that by somebody. And he doesn't even call him Jesus, he calls him the Lord, I think he calls him. In any case, part of the title of this book is The Cup of the Lord, the Damascus Covenant, and the Blood of Christ. Because the blood of Christ is, really important for Christian theory and so on. And the Last Supper, this is the new covenant in my blood. If you know, drink this in memory of me. Or this was poured out for you. I can't remember the different versions of Paul's. And Luke always reflects Paul because Luke was considered someone who was close to Paul. So Luke's version is a little bit different from Matthew and Mark. They usually are similar to each other. And John doesn't even have it. John has something else altogether. So it's not even in the Gospel of John. You think it would be, but it isn't. So we have three testimonies, but they're more or less one. Based on Paul's testimony on that Last Supper saying, this is the new covenant in my blood. Drink this in memory of me. Well, it turns out that in the Dead Sea Scrolls, we have a new covenant. And the whole Damascus document is really setting forth what the new covenant for them is. So that's a parallel sort of nexus, if you want, or center of activity or imagery. And what I show at the end of this, I'll give you the end before the beginning of the New Testament code, which is why I call it the New Testament code. I don't call it that for naught, because New Testament and New Covenant are considered the same thing. That in the Dead Sea Scrolls, it's in the land of Damascus. But it came clear to me in these courses, I know it's crazy, and I don't know what to make of it, and I don't actually make of it, I don't make any final conclusions in the book either. But Damascus, and I don't want to ruin this for you because it's in the book there, fully described, in Greek, is that way. And you see, dam in Hebrew is blood. And kus in Hebrew is cup.